In this part 2 video of the interior detailing sequence, we're talking floorboards, carpet vacuuming, and carpet shampooing. What's going on, and welcome back to the Wilson Auto Detailing community. If you're a pro detailer or car enthusiast who loves everything auto detailing, then consider subscribing. So first thing is first, guys, now that all the hard plastics are done, the doors are done, the dashboard done, any rubber, vinyl, plastic in the car is done, we're moving to the carpets. I actually do the upholstery after I do the carpets. I prefer it that way. And so we're gonna hit the carpets. Number 1 is gonna be vacuuming, number 2 is gonna be shampooing, and then number 3 is going to be basically touching up any areas that I might have missed. Now, what I'm gonna do is pull out the floorboards first, try to get all the trash on them so I don't dump it everywhere, and we'll go from there. Now, this part honestly is pretty simple. I'm just gonna be vacuuming all of the carpets out, in between the seats, under the seats. I'm also gonna vacuum the fabric seats, the upholstery, as well as I do this. So now that all the upholstery, the fabric, the carpet, all of that is cleaned, and basically we're just left with the bare fabric in the car, I want to talk about a concept that is a little bit something that took me kind of more experience to understand, and it's a very simple concept, but it took me a while to really grasp. So basically, here it is, okay? In the detailing world, in many cases, you only want to detail to the level that you have to. What I'm saying is, for example, with carpets that are covered with weather mats, for example, this passenger seat floorboard is covered with a weather mat. Underneath that weather mat, there might be a little bit of dirt here and there, a little bit of staining here and there, but the majority of that dirt is gonna be on those places, on those borders where that weather mat was not covering. So the problem is if you're not careful, as a detailer, you go OCD mode and you start detailing everything, and the issue with that is that underneath the weather mat is very, very clean. That carpeting doesn't require a lot of cleaning, and so you're not being cheap if you don't clean that part of the carpet aggressively. You're just being smart, and the truth of it is, let's say you're using a steamer like I'm using right now. There is some wear and tear at the end of the day that comes to a carpet when you use something like a steamer. You're blasting hot steam onto these fibers as well as scrubbing them. And so at the end of the day, yes, you're cleaning, but there's also some wear and tear happening. So underneath the weather mat where it's not dirty, I'm gonna be very quick with that area. Let me show you what I'm talking about. And again, I know this sounds obvious, and it is obvious, but it's just one of those things where it's like, it tends to not hit people until later. So for example, you guys can see dirt right here. You can see staining right here, all up and down this line right here. This is where the back of a person's shoe, the heel, sits right here. No wonder it's dirty. It's not covered by the weather mat. However, this area all up in here is totally covered by the weather mat, and you can see the fibers. There's no real staining up there. There's not really a ton of dirt. Again, on these outer edges there are, but in the center here, this is clean. And so all I'm saying is my approach has to cater to the level of dirt and level of just filthiness, I guess, is on the carpets. And when you're new to the detailing business, it's very easy to just go way overboard and you just start cleaning everything. So what I'm going to do is basically do a certain type of approach, again, that I've been doing with the whole kind of vehicle, is I'm gonna hit the dirty areas, and then really I'm just gonna barely wipe over these clean areas that are in the center of the carpet, but really I'm just gonna be focusing on these outer areas in between the seats, on both sides, underneath the seats, any of those problem areas, and really leave it at that. Now, I want to explain what I did in the process I used here. Number one, for the more stained areas on the, again, the areas on the kind of that sit outside of the range of the mat, I used Super Clean Degreaser 5-to-1 and went over it twice. Number one, light repeated applications are always going to be best. Light repeated applications, a light spray, Super Clean 5-to-1, scrubbing with the nylon bristle brush head that looks like this with my steamer, of course, coupled with the steam. Doing that, then mopping it up with a microfiber towel and repeating that process. Now, a couple notes here. Is there a ton of change? There's not a ton of change. Number two, is it necessarily dirt? Let's talk about this. The problem with these entry-level vehicles like a Prius hybrid is the carpeting that's down here is not carpeting at all. This is the equivalent of taking like fabric that you get from like Michael's or Hobby Lobby or Joann's, stretching it over, let's just say like a piece of plywood, putting it down, stapling it to each side. If you were to take fabric like that, that thin craft fabric, staple it over some 2x4s, and that got dirty and stained, you can clean it to a level. You will never get that to perfection because, again, there are no fibers to that. There's no fibers that dirt falls in between that can be sucked out, extracted out, steamed out, none of that stuff. No matter what kind of enzymes or chemicals you use, it's not going to happen, I promise. Number two, when a weather mat does not cover the entirety of the carpet itself, you have to learn to discern between what is dirt and then what is fading, what is discoloration, what is damage from the sun, damage from people getting in and out and squashing those that fabric over and over, rubbing it with their feet over and over and over again so it gets even thinner than it was in the beginning. And so there's this carpet really cannot be extracted at any sort of grandiose level. That's why I'm not even pulling out my extractor for this, because again, this is a rat's nest of fibers that go every which way. This is not traditional carpeting, and there's no padding underneath this, there's no foam underneath this, there's nothingness underneath it. It's kind of like the headliner in this car. There's no like interface of foam that the stain, you know, wicks into or anything like that it can be pulled out. It's this kind of the same concept. And so when you're dealing with these entry-level cars, it's really important you understand the nature of this beast, because though it looks very similar as it did before, it is cleaned, but a level of this is not even dirt, it's fading, it's the fabric literally being worn down from the person's heel. And then of course, number three, it's the nature of the material itself. The second you get it dirty, there's really not a lot going back from that. There's not a lot of unringing the bell, because this is just the nature of what this fabric does. Now the process I used, again, light repeated applications of Super Clean 5-to-1, steaming and mopping up with a microfiber for the cases in between the seats. So like down in here, and of course down in between the seats over here. What I will do is take my Meguiar's all-purpose cleaner, do a very light spray on both of those sides. Again, I'll do it kind of up in here as well so that I get all these cracks and crevices. I will hook up the steamer head that looks like this. It just shoots out a single like stream of steam, and I'll blow out all these areas, blow out all those areas, and then just scrub and mop up with a microfiber towel. And you guys can see these areas look very clean. There's not, these weren't like really stained or anything, but again, if they were, the steamer would be great for that as well, getting rid of those stains. However, basically what I'm trying to do in those areas is just blow out everything, make sure everything's clean down there. There's not a lot that gets down there that would like wear the fibers down, that would create a ton of discoloration, so those are very easy areas. Now I'm gonna go ahead and repeat that process of what I did here to basically just the rest of the vehicle. So I'm gonna come back here and get all of these carpets in the back here, and then of course the driver's side as well, and we'll come in after that. So now I'd like to take you guys around to look at the carpets just so you can see a couple things. I hung my light up here so I could see a little bit better. Again, I want to reinforce this idea of understanding the nature of what you are detailing before you actually do it, so you don't drive yourself crazy and get angry at yourself for not getting certain results. Now, number one, this little area right here where the left foot of the driver normally sits particularly gets very dirty. I want to comment on this really quickly. I actually did not use my steamer on this area, and you guys saw in many cases I didn't use the steamer around any parts of the car. There were some that I did for convenience purposes, but I literally just cleaned this area with Super Clean and with a brush and with a microfiber towel, light repeated applications again. Once again, this is not going to be 100% perfect. In other words, this little area that just gets worn out and worn out and worn out with the bottom of someone's shoe over years and years and years is never going to be perfected. It's not going to look like this, you know, nice gray color like it was when it was new. However, it can come back to a very, very nice condition, and I did that without using the steamer. Why is that? This is an important point. There are times when you use something like a steamer, and the only way to really understand this and get this is to do it and just get some experience under your belt, but it will sometimes make your job harder in that you're waterlogging sometimes certain areas, and it makes it harder to clean. Generally speaking, light repeated applications are always going to be best in the detailing world when you're doing something like carpets. And because I didn't want to waterlog it and make it harder on myself, and again, I don't know how to make that make sense unless you just get some experience with a steamer, you'll understand there are times you just don't want to use it. This is one of those times, but I still got fantastic results with just using the simplest of tools. And so that ought to encourage you, honestly. Just let that encourage you, because you don't need the nicest tools. You don't need the nicest equipment. You don't need the most experience. You just need, even sometimes, a spray bottle, a $10 product, a brush, and a microfiber towel to get results like these. So in that, the second step to interior detailing in this particular chronological order and process that I'm doing, number one, the first process was all of the hard plastic, rubbers, vinyls, leathers. Number two, we're focusing on not all of the upholstery, not all of the fabric, just breaking the fabric into two different spots. Number two, it's gonna be the carpeting. Number three is gonna be the fabric, the upholstery of the cloth seats, but right now we're focusing on the carpeting. So number one, we vacuum. Well, I guess number one, you take out all the mats. Number two, vacuum. And number three, clean them all, shampoo them all with chemicals. And again, in doing things in that order, you make your work easier in that you don't have to go over certain things. So now that I cleaned all the hard surfaces first, and this is gonna be after that, any dirt that may have fallen in that process fell on the carpet, it's already cleaned up. There's no dirt left in the car to fall anywhere. So I'm not gonna have to go back over the carpets with a vacuum and all that sort of stuff. They're clean at this point. So for more information, definitely check out the YouTube description box below. I'm going to hook up a link to my website, detailingjunk.com. Tons of info there for you guys. If you want to buy any of the products, the steamers, anything that I used in this video, I'm not only going to hook up links to those things, but check out my website, detailingjunk.com, because I'm going to hook up links that will help you decide what kind of steamer should you buy, what kind of tools should you buy, when should you buy them, why should you buy them, so that you don't make mistakes that I made and that other people make without having any little nuggets of wisdom in those purchases. Number three, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. Of course, leave your YouTube comments below, and if you buy anything using my links, it does give this channel a small commission, but it helps me continue to put out content just like this all the time. Thank you guys for watching and being involved, and as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, keep working hard, and I'll see you guys in the next video.